Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Angel Storm. I'm the founder of Ashes to Beauty Ministries, and today I'm talking to you about how to identify your justifying behavior for the narcissist behavior, and I'm going to explain that in a minute, and then also what you can do once you realize that this is happening. So one of the things that narcissists do, and actually any type of abusive relationship will do, is to get the victim basically defending the abuser. So they do this so that there's no real out for the victim. It kind of keeps them in that cycle of violence, and it eliminates any kind of outside support that they may have had in order to leave the situation. And so what this can look like is, yeah, he wouldn't have said that if I hadn't said such and such, or if I had gotten the kids under control before he came home from work, or any kind of justifying behavior like that. It would have been different if we were here, or if I had been this way, it would have been a different setting for him to be in. He would have responded differently. If you find yourself doing that for the narcissist, that's a really good sign that there is probably trauma bonds still connected there, and also that you may have some sort of PTSD or CPTSD issues there. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is so that we can talk about reconceptualization. So this is a tactic that you have probably heard lots of psychiatrists talk about it. And it's basically taking an event and thinking about it in a different way. So what happens when we do the justifying for the narcissist behavior is that we are reinforcing within our own body. We are telling our brain to think about ourselves in a certain manner, and that is a very destructive manner. It's very harmful, and it's also not true. And so there's a bunch of reasons why you want to get a hold of this justifying behavior and practice something called reconceptualization of the event, so that you not only weaken the trauma bond and weaken the hold of PTSD that it has on you, but also you're training your brain to think about current situations and future situations in a completely different way than you have in the past. And that is going to be huge for victims of narcissistic abuse, because typically victims of narcissistic abuse will end up with another narcissist. And that happens because they have trained their brain to think in a certain way. And again, without eliminating all of these connections between the narcissist and yourself, so in body, soul, and spirit, you're always going to have an inroad for a narcissist to come in, because narcissism is, again, first a spirit. You are going to attract the same spirit in a different body if you don't use your mind to train your brain to think differently and your body to respond differently. So first thing is identifying this behavior. This is not, we are not now trying to justify the justifying. We are saying, I am justifying this behavior, and it was not okay for me to be treated that way. It was not okay for me to try to justify or reason that behavior away. It was not okay. So that's the first thing, is coming to grips or coming to terms with the fact that it is not okay for you to be treated in whatever manner you were treated, regardless of the outside circumstances, regardless of how rowdy the children were, regardless of you didn't do all of your chores that you should have done that day, or whatever the situation was. All of those things still do not give the right for somebody else to treat you the way that you were treated. So identifying that and really allowing that to sink in, like let that seep into your identity. I am worth more than that. Spend some time on this step right now. You know, pause the video and just really think about that. What does it mean to you to know that you are worthy, you are worth more, your value as an individual, as a human being, is worth more than the way that you were treated? So really reflect on that and like let that answer really sink into you. Second thing that we do, after we identify the fact that we are doing justifying behavior and we come to face the situation in the right manner, so we agree that it is not okay for us to be treated this way, and that you have more worth as a human being than the way you were treated. Second of all is you want to try to get to the root of why you felt the need to do justifying behavior, why you felt the need to say it was okay for you to be treated in the manner that you were treated. And this is not going to be something that you're going to do, you know, in 5 minutes. This is likely has a lot of other roots to it, but I want you to be aware of this so that you can at least get started on it. So I suggest taking some time, not a lot of time, 5-10 minutes a day, and really asking yourself why 5 times. So I have a mini training on this on my Instagram if you're interested in checking that out. But basically, ask yourself, why was it okay for you to be treated that way? Why did you do the justifying behavior? And continue down that train of thought for 5 times. Maybe at the end of that 5 times that you sit and do this, you find out that it was really fear of rejection, or maybe it was shame. You didn't want people to kind of see behind the scenes of what was really going on in your relationship, and so you were trying to cover it up by making excuses or justifying the narcissist behavior. Really get down to the root of it. Why didn't you want people to know about that? What would have happened if somebody had known about it? You know, how would you have reacted? Would it have changed the way that you believe you were perceived by that person or accepted by that person? You know, was it fear of rejection the whole time? So you want to get to what that actual root is, because when you recognize the root, that's the thing that you need to pull up. And I spoke about this in my video earlier this week about the root of bitterness, so you should check that out if you are unfamiliar with identifying bitterness and what to do if you find this in your life, because that's a really damaging emotion that will just wreak havoc on the rest of your emotions, your thoughts, and of course it has physical consequences in your body as well. Lots of health issues associated with it. So you want to be able to get to the root so that you can pull that up and you can start planting seeds of truth in its place. So if, for example, the root of the issue was shame or fear of rejection, you were worried about how you would be perceived by other people, you want to be able to really look and self-reflect about that. Why is that? You know, why do you feel like you need to present a certain life to the outside world, even though that wasn't the life you were living? And this is a very deep process. This is different for every single person, but really getting to the root of that. And I'm going to just tell you my story of when I sat and did this many times in my own experience. And if you haven't seen the video that I did with Dan Paddock on my YouTube channel earlier this month, please go check that out, because we talk about it a little bit, which is that I was so good at everything else. You know, I had achieved a certain level of, I don't know, standards, I guess, in my own life for my career and for my babies, and just every single thing that I did, I've always done it with excellence. And so the fact that I was tricked or allowed myself to be tricked for so long by a narcissist was really difficult for me to accept. It's like, I am so good at everything else, and I'm intelligent, and I'm smart, I'm a caring person, I have all of these great traits. Why was it that this person could fool me for so long, and why didn't I do anything about it sooner? And so answering these questions for my own self really allowed me to kind of tap into another level of my being. You know, these areas where I felt like I needed to be that person. You know, because I had been that way in every single other area of my life doesn't mean that I felt like it meant that I could not fail or I couldn't make a mistake. And so that really added into why I didn't do anything sooner. And the second thing was that I was truly, honestly not willing to look at that situation for how it really was. I was unwilling to see the truth in the situation because I just didn't want to believe that I could make such a gigantic mistake. And you know, when you're with a narcissist, though, there is only one outcome to that situation. If the narcissist will not change, there's only one solution, and that is that they will destroy everything in your life. And that's exactly what happened to me personally, and that's the reason why I started Ashes to Beauty, to help other people, you know, not only avoid the situation that I ended up in, that I put myself in, but also if you were like me, and you recognize that you made a mistake and now you're already in that situation, to give people hope and a roadmap for how to get out of it and for how to rebuild their life. So when you come to the end of the questioning, when you get to the root cause, I really just started to embrace that. Like, I am flawed and I am a human, and it's going to be normal for me to try something and not get it right. And it's okay if I make a decision to change my mind. So I know that this might sound very simple, but for me, this was a real awakening. You know, it really allowed me to just really embrace who I am fully. Like, I'm not perfect. I have flaws, and I'm going to have flaws, and that's okay. And I'm going to find people who embrace those things about me as well, and surround myself with those types of people, and people who will encourage me to, you know, not settle for something that my potential is so much above that. So it was a real learning experience for sure. It's been a long process. It's been a long learning cycle for me, but I'm grateful to be able to tell you that this is really going to be a freeing exercise for you. I know that so many of you are going to find freedom and healing just by taking a few minutes every day to work on these issues. Just set aside that time, and you don't need to touch it with your thoughts for the rest of the day. The next day, you come back to it, you ask yourself those 5 questions, you reflect on it, and that's it. Don't keep coming back to it throughout the day, because your perception can get changed. You know, you can get into these unhealthy rumination cycles where you just start thinking toxic thoughts over and over and over again. And the point is to not only get to the root of these issues, but also to train your brain to think in a different way, and you do that by renewing your mind. So make sure that you do this for only a limited period of time every day, and that you stick to the task at hand. So don't get sidetracked thinking about all of these other things. Work on this specific issue about justifying behavior, because that's going to reveal, I think, a lot about the way that you feel about yourself, the way that you value your own self, the way that you hope to maybe have other people value you, or the way that you need to change the way that you value yourself and you treat yourself. So work on that for 5 to 10 minutes again every day. Ask yourself those 5 why questions and keep doing it until you feel like that whole issue is gone. And you'll know, because you're going to realize that you don't even think about that situation the same way anymore. And not only do you not think about that situation the same way, you can't imagine going back to the unhealthy thinking habits that you had beforehand. So I hope this video has blessed you, helped you. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel below, turn on the little bell, and I'll see you next time.